As previously described, once the topics are announced, the consortia begin the project proposal preparation process. During this phase, you may encounter the following contracts. A non-disclosure agreement is not required for every project, but it's fairly common. Parties involved agree to refrain from disclosing certain information received from the other party to anyone else. Most often, the industrial partners request this document to be signed. Around this time, partners may also sign a memorandum of understanding or a letter of intent. This document formally outlines the preliminary terms that the parties have agreed upon, including their intent to prepare a project proposal together, each partner's contribution, consortium roles, and other foundational details. It may also highlight any terms still under discussion and include confidentiality provisions, similar to those in an NDA. Memorandum of Understanding is less common than NDA and is typically used in larger projects, especially when collaborating with large corporations, particularly those based in the United States. Unlike other contracts, the Memorandum of Understanding is generally not legally binding and enforceable, meaning you cannot sue the other party for breaching it. Instead, it serves primarily as a negotiation tool. However, this rule isn't absolute. It depends on the wording of the document. The core contract governing the relationships between partners is the Consortium Agreement. Article 7 of the Model Grant Agreement requires beneficiaries to conclude a written contract governing their collaboration and operations to ensure the proper implementation of the project. There are exceptions where a consortium agreement is not obligatory, like ERC multi-beneficiary grants. Model Grant Agreement doesn't specify particular issues the consortium agreement should regulate. It only suggests the following areas that may be addressed. As this list is only a recommendation, the consortium agreement can be relatively minimalistic, but it should establish a straightforward framework for cooperation within the consortium. The beneficiaries are always parties to the consortium agreement, while the grant provider is not included. If the project involves other entities, such as associated partners or affiliated entities, that are not beneficiaries, the beneficiaries can decide whether to include them in the consortium agreement or sign a separate contract with them. Negotiations for the consortium agreement are typically initiated by the project coordinator after the project has been approved for funding. It is recommended to conclude the consortium agreement before signing the grant agreement to clarify the rights and obligations of the parties before committing to project implementation with the European Commission. However, neither the program rules nor the grant agreement require that the consortium agreement is signed before the grant agreement. Occasionally, project officers mistakenly require confirmation that the consortium agreement is signed before signing the grant agreement, or even request a signed copy. In fact, the annotated model grant agreement explicitly states that the consortium agreement is an internal document of the consortium and should not be submitted to the granting authority for information or review. Although beneficiaries have significant flexibility, the practice is relatively standardized. Consortium agreements used in Horizon Europe projects almost always follow the model agreement developed by the DESCA initiative. This model is an excellent starting point for drafting a consortium agreement for any Horizon Europe project, as it can be tailored to fit the specifics of the projects and the parties involved. For that purpose, the DESCA template includes the core text, modules, and several options of multiple versions of certain provisions, allowing flexibility based on the project type, form of funding, parties' preferences, and consortium size. For example, many provisions have one version for actual cost grants and an alternative version for lump sum grants. There are also 2 alternative modules for the governance structure to choose from, and an optional module on intellectual property specifics related to software. On the website, the DESCA initiative also provides an annotated version of the agreement, which includes commentary on each provision. For projects involving associated partners, where beneficiaries decided to include them as a party to the consortium agreement, DESCA offers a specific version of the model, the AP version. Since it is an older version, it does not include the options for lump sum grants. But you can integrate the associated partners provisions into the DESCA latest version, which includes the lump sum specifics. You should keep in mind that the DESCA initiative is organizationally and financially independent of the EU, and the template is not endorsed by the European Commission. But still, using the DESCA template is considered best practice for any Horizon Europe project.